Hi, my name is Tom Brewitt, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist with a practice in Denver, Colorado. I also see clients based out of California and Maine. Today I want to talk with you about the third stage of queer relationship development, the discovering differences phase. So if you've been following along, I've been talking about the 7 different stages of queer relationship development in a series of videos over the last few weeks. The first 2 stages that we've gone through already are the second queer adolescence, and the second stage is the honeymoon stage. So if you have come through the honeymoon stage and the second queer adolescence stage, and you are moving into the discovering differences stage of relationship development, that can be a really exciting but also tension or anxiety-filled time for relationship development. So assuming that you've gone through the second queer adolescent stage and you have really become clear about who you are and what's important to you, and then you have moved into the honeymoon stage and you've developed a really strong foundation for your relationship. That means that you've had lots of connection, lots of bonding, hopefully lots of sex if sex is your thing. Lots of different ways that you have been able to connect and bond and build a strong relationship with your partner or partners. This stage, the honeymoon stage, usually lasts anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And then at some point, you typically start to reconnect with yourself in one way or another. And that can open the door to discovering the way that you and your partner or partners are different. This is a totally natural and important part of relationship development, but it can bring conflict if it is not navigated in a successful way. So what do I mean by navigating through this period in a successful way? Well, one of the ways that this shows up a lot of the time in my office with gay men is that people will be monogamous for the first, several, months or weeks of their relationship or years, and at some point they want to open their relationship or move into some form of consensual non-monogamy. Again, this is not every couple. We know that 50% of gay couples like to be in monogamous relationships, and that's totally awesome. This is just an example to prove the point of what the discovering differences phase can look like in a relationship, in a queer relationship. So one member of the couple, let's say it's a couple, they're monogamous, they decide they want to be in an open relationship. Well, they can go out and break the relationship agreement and just start having sex with somebody. That would be a non-differentiated way to start doing that in your relationship. Or they can come to their partner or partners and say, hey, I love our relationship and I'm noticing that I'm wanting something more for myself. This can be a really tension and anxiety producing time in relationship development. The other partner then has the choice of saying, okay, let me listen and understand and try to see what's important to you about this. Or they can react in usually one of 2 ways, shut down and withdraw, or they can get super angry and loud, and that can cause all sorts of conflict in the relationship. The magic sauce here, the thing that allows couples to be able to work through a stage like this in a relationship, is differentiation. Differentiation is a word that refers to being able to notice that you are a different person inside of a relationship. You know what your wants, needs, feelings, and desires are, and you are able to tolerate the anxiety that shows up when your partner or partners are a different human being and they have their own different wants, needs, feelings, and desires, and sometimes that can be in direct conflict with your own wants, needs, feelings, and desires. Differentiation is the process of being able to come forward and say, this is what's important to me, even if it could potentially cause conflict or strife in the relationship in one way or another. Differentiation is something I talk a lot about in my book, The Go-To Relationship Guide for Gay Men, that will be coming out in March of 2025. So if you're curious about that topic, I will do some more videos on it and you can learn some more about it. But it's really the muscle that's going to allow you to move through the discovering differences stage of relationship development. There are 2 different types of differentiation. There's self-differentiation. That is you being able to go inside and know what's important to you, what your wants, needs, feelings, and desires are. And then there is other differentiation. That is being able to know that you are a separate person and have your own thoughts, feelings, needs, and desires, and you are able to be curious about your partners when they are different than yours, because they probably are. Hopefully they are, because you're not the same human being. This can be messy, right? It can cause lots of different conflicts and things in a relationship. But like I said, there's 2 ways that people usually handle this. They avoid things, they shut down and they ignore the differences, or they take a courageous step and they move into the differences, but sometimes there can be a lot of conflict and it can be very messy if people are not differentiated enough to have conversations in a constructive way. Why is this stage so tricky for queer relationships and gay relationships? I have a few hypotheses about this. So the first one is that we didn't have relationship role models, many of us, for what a good, successful, positive queer relationship could look like. I know for me growing up, there weren't a lot of queer relationships represented in the media. I didn't have a lot in my community, so I didn't really know what a queer relationship could look like. I assumed that it was going to be the same thing as a straight relationship, where I follow the relationship escalator up from dating to marriage to kids to all that kind of stuff. But that, for me, is ultimately not the kind of relationship that I want in my life. It took me a while to figure that out. But, if we didn't have family or community support, that can be another area where we struggle. Another area that I think impacts queer relationship development around discovering differences is the lack of community and family support. If you don't have family and community support, people that are going to stand behind you and say, your relationship is natural and lovely and beautiful and it can be exactly the kind of relationship that you want it to be, then you can have some self-doubt, and that can impact your ability to come forward and really explore your differences with another partner. And our relationships are different. I've said this in many different videos, but queer relationships are inherently different than straight relationships. Like I said before, we don't have to follow the relationship escalator in the same way that many of our straight counterparts are encouraged to do. We get to define what kind of relationship structures and rules and agreements will work for us. We get to be very intentional. We have to be. Many of us have had to be for generations, right? We've had to be very intentional about the kind of relationships that we create. I think that's a really brilliant, beautiful, wonderful thing. But it can make the discovering differences phase that much more tricky, because we may not have the same sort of societal structures to fall back on. Yes, there's gay marriage, yes, there's queer marriage, but what about the 50% of people who are not in monogamous relationships, right? Where do they fall into the mix? How do they have the same protections that those of us who are in monogamous relationships, or those people who are in monogamous relationships? All right, so you and your partner or partners are starting to discover your differences. You're starting to have conversations about this. Maybe it's leading to avoidance, maybe it's leading to more conflict. But what can you do about it today in your relationship to start improving and working through this stage of your relationship if you are stuck in the discovering differences phase? The first thing is you can get really clear with yourself about what is important to you. Whatever the topic may be, whatever the conversation may be, slow down and get really clear with yourself about what's the most important thing about this topic to you. That may involve some conversations with important people in your life, or a therapist, or journaling, or whatever you do to connect with yourself in a really deep way. Get very clear about what's important to you. The second part of this process is getting really quiet and listening to your partner or partners and discovering what's important to them. That means keep your perspective out of it. That means, slow way down and try to become very clear about what's important to your partner or partners. This sounds super simple, but I can guarantee that it is a very tricky thing to develop on your own. And the third thing that you can do, once you have really become clear about yourself and you've really started to understand what is important to your partner or partners, this is, I think, the most important thing you can take away from this video is don't rush to problem solving. Many of us have been trained, especially if you're, we're raised male, you have been trained to solve problems. It's a very masculine thing to do, but stop it. It's very easy to solve the problem once you fully understand what's going on. So if you follow those 3 steps, if you get really clear about what's important to you, if you slow down and you listen to your partner's perspective and get very clear on what's important to them, and then you don't try to solve the problem right away. You have some more just exploratory conversations, you get really clear on that, and then I promise you the problem solving will be quick and easy. Because once it's very clear what's important to all people involved, there become very few decisions where everybody gets there are fewer decisions possible when you get really clear on what's important to everybody. All right, I hope this has been helpful. This is the Discovering Differences stage of queer relationship development. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and leave some comments below. I would love to continue this conversation with you. I will be continuing with the other 7 stages of queer relationship development and putting out some more videos about that. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.